We need to become, shepherds ourselves to be able to handle that predator when he does come. And the scriptures give us the tools to do that. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All right. So we're in Luke, the 4th chapter and the 14th verse. So it says, and Yahushua returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him through all the region round about. So based on his dealings as far as for the teachings and the healing that he was doing, fame went out. He became very popular throughout all the different coasts. All right, you got to see this guy. He's doing this. He's saying this and he's doing that. It's unbelievable. What? Where's that at? Who is he? So that rumor started to spread, like wildfire. Verse 15. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. So when he went and taught, he was being glorified. People recognized the power and the spirit that was on him. His words were true. His words were powerful. It was like, man, this guy here is something. Where did he come from? Ain't that the carpenter's son? Ain't that Joseph? But something about him. So everybody began to talk about him and he began to get famous. But now it's something specific that's about to happen, that's about to change a little bit as how people looked at him. So like within his own town. It says, and he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. Right?
Jesus went on what?
So now this is a verse, brothers who, who are teachers, go out to camp and who deal with different of our people, who deal with the Sabbath day or the day of the Lord as far as for a day of worship. This is one of the key verses that we use because we know Christ is our example. He is the person that we're supposed to emulate in righteousness as the things that we're supposed to do in the spirit. So we see here, as the custom was, so it is customary for not only Yahushua, but for all Israel to go into the Sabbath day in the synagogue on the Sabbath day. The Sabbath day being from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Now, when you look it up in today's, dictionaries and you go online and things of that nature, you'll read about the Sabbath day being, in certain cases, on Saturday. But that's the day that the Jews keep as a Sabbath day. Then you'll read further down that the Christians keep it on Sunday. Right? That the Christians keep it on Sunday, the Jews keep it on Saturday. Now, of course, again, like the brother pulled out in 1 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved, you would have to go through the scriptures and see and read where the Jews were doing this, their own thing on Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, but after they were called Christians at Antioch, then they began to keep it on the first day of the week. You need to go into the New Testament and find that record to be able to validate that now it is okay to keep the Sabbath day on the first day of the week. All right? Somebody had their hand up? Come on.
My question to that is, they said Christians keeping the Sabbath day on Sunday,
right?
But Christ was a Jew. Right.
Exactly.
If you're a follower of Christ, which is what a Christian is, a follower of Christ, if Christ keeping it on Saturday, why would you keep it on Sunday?
Exactly. It's a good point.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that when you go into the depths of it, because
my gosh,
those who quote unquote call themselves Christians, and we usually talk about this and deal with this on a day-to-day when we interact with our brothers and sisters who are in these mainstream churches and categorize themselves as Christians, they don't do what they say their name is or what they're following. They're not Christians because they're not quote-unquote followers of Christ in the respect that you read about in the Bible. They don't do the same things that you read that Christ did in the Bible, right? So if you follow Christ, like the brother brought out, then you would go as the custom was in the synagogues on the Sabbath day, right? Not on. We're reading Luke 4 and 16.
I think they're keeping Moses should be
right.
The picture you see the Moses, so they're keeping his custom, not Christ's custom.
Right, and keeping they're following man's traditions. Right? Man came and said that it is the way, or this is how it's supposed to be, based on, and this is one of the main excuses that I hear for the Sabbath day being kept on Sunday, the first day of the week, based on resurrection, when Christ resurrected. Right? He resurrected on the first day of the week, so now that's when we keep the Sabbath day. And we don't deny that Yahushua rose on the first day of the week. The thing that is, where in the scriptures did it change from the Sabbath day being kept on the seventh day to the first day? Never happened, right? And now that would bring a whole changing of the law when you read even the Ten Commandments, because the Most High God gave the law to Moses, and that's what Yahushua followed. So now why would just change all of a sudden in that regard? It didn't.
Quick scripture, y'all can write it down. Malachi chapter 3 verse 6. For I am the Lord, or for I am Yahweh, I change not.
So
he ain't changing this stuff for nobody.
So the Most High didn't change. You could also write down St. James, the first chapter.
That's the connector.
And the 17th verse in the New Testament. Right? So that show that what we just read in Malachi, the 3rd chapter, the 6th verse, is still true in the New Testament, which now has been brought forth in James 1 and 17. It says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness. Right? Variableness is changing. Right? That's like how now people, when they went through the mortgage crisis, they had their interest rate was, what do they call it? A variable interest rate. So that means that at one point it could be 5%. Adjustable. At one point it could be 5%, then all of a sudden it can change to 10%. On a whim. Right? The Most High is not like that. The Most High said it's 5 is 5. It's supposed to be the 7th day, it's the 7th day. Right? No variableness, no changing, neither shadow of turning. Right? There's no going from this to that, turning this way, nothing like that. So the Most High said the 7th day, even though Yahushua rose on the first day of the week, that did not constitute for us to make the Sabbath day now on Saturday sundown to Sunday sundown. Right? Because the day begins in the evening. There's nothing in there that speaks to that regard. So if it's not in the scriptures, you can't add unto the word to make it fit your purpose. And that's what man has done.
Right.
Alright, so that was Malachi 3 and 6, James 1 and 17.
And like what you did too. It's like, instead of always just declaring to somebody where to keep the Sabbath, you could put it back on them and say, well, where does it say for us to keep the first day of the week as the holy day?
Right.
Where did Christ do that? Where did he say that?
Right.
No, I'm asking. Right. And hold them accountable to that question.
Exactly.
Show me where in the Bible it tells us to keep the first day holy. If you could. Please. I'm waiting. If you need to call your pastor, I'll wait.
And you can reverse that. See, that's your interpretation.
we always laugh at that response. That's your interpretation.
Right. That's when they got nothing else to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
I said they have a lot of that Esther Rose type of mentality. When Michael was correcting her on the image of what Yahushua looked like, she was like, oh, that does say that in the scripture. And he was breaking down Revelations 1
right.
and like 14, and he was showing her. And she's supposed to be a woman of understanding, or so-called believe in the Most High. She looked in and she's like, oh, that does say that.
Right.
But still stuck in their old ways. Like how the Most High said, we're stiff-necked people. You could be showing them and they still, oh, like you said, hard head make a soft backside.
So let's continue on to Luke 4, verse 17 now. It says, and there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to teach the acceptable year of the Lord. So you getting it? So now here it is. When he went in the Sabbath day, the scripture was open through the Spirit where he had to read. They gave him the book, and now here it was. Just so happened to fall right to the part where it was going to be the fulfillment of what was written before, right? So Yahushua read these words. So now the Spirit was on Yahushua at that time from the Most High to go do what? To preach the gospel to the poor, right? So now that's what someone who's in the Spirit of the Most High and Yahushua now is supposed to be apt to do. To go and preach the gospel, the good news, our salvation, our history, the laws to the poor. Not to just those, not speaking about those who just poor or in economy, right? It tells you in Matthew, the 5th chapter. Matthew, the 5th chapter and the 3rd verse. Matthew 5 and 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, right? For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So we're going to the poor in spirit, right? Those who don't have that knowledge now, those who lack the fulfillment of the Spirit, we're going out to them to try to fill them with the Spirit of the Most High in Christ, right? So this is not talking about economical poor. This is talking about spiritual poor as well, right? Because it always starts in the spirit. Because it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or if you don't have any money. This poor is a spiritual type of a poor. Because those who are millionaires, who are drug addicts, whoremongers, alcoholics, whatever the case, still searching, they would like to hear this word too. It's going to be harder for them, like Yahushua said, it's going to be hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom because of the wealth and all of the things that they've acquired. But still, there are going to be some who may have lots of money who are going to want to hear and follow the Most High and Yahushua. Right? It's not that it can't happen, it's just hard for it to happen. But this is what our task is. So we have to go out to all people. That's why it's live stream, teleconference, go out to the public. We don't know the economic status of everything, so we just preach the gospel worldwide, out in the open, so that everyone can hear it. Right? That's our job. In the same spirit that Yahushua was in. You got the
Yes.
All right. It says here, he has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, those who are broken in spirit, right? From whatever has happened in their lives, whether it be through a marriage, whether it be through a job, whether it be through family members, whether it be for their friends, or society. They have brokenhearted and they need something to heal that spirit, whether it was their church, right? Organization, what have you. You're brokenhearted. The Most High and Yahushua through the Spirit can heal you. To preach deliverance to the captives. Who are those who are captives? Who are those who are in bondage? The Israelites. Right? We're the ones that's in captive. Physically and spiritually. When we read in the beginning of this chapter, of this book in Luke, the Most High put the Spirit on John, where once his son was born, he began to prophesy about the coming of Yahushua and his importance. That he was supposed to bring salvation to us, to the Israelites. He understood that, and that was coming through the Spirit. So the same thing now, Yahushua is in that same spirit. He's going out there to preach deliverance to the captives. And recovering of sight to the blind. That should be self-explanatory. We know a lot of our brothers and sisters are spiritually blind, under the power and rule of Satan. So it is through the Spirit of Yahushua that we give that light and uncover that darkness. To set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. So those who are bruised spiritually, not just carnally, because we know some people have gone through, different types of abuse, from society, from their family, husbands, wives, whatever, religion, pastors. I was watching again the Bishop Eglon case, and that affects you mentally. So those who are bruised through different types of ailments, we are there now, or the prophets, the teachers through Christ are supposed to be there to heal them, to help them out, and to speak about Yahushua's return to give us the kingdom, that acceptable year. Now we are.
So this is what Yahushua was quoting
Gun.
in the Old Testament, God forbid, which is kind of